There you go. So welcome everybody to our latest webinar. This presentation is from our friends at HH2 Cloud Services. And this is the payables workflow documents solution for Sage 300 CRE. HH2 have been a long-time development partner for Sage products. They've had some excellent products in the marketplace, and as of it's last year now, they have made these products available to us in Australia. So I'll be handing over to Kevin Hadley and Britton Bauer to run through the presentation. So over to you guys.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Chris. This is Britton Bauer. As mentioned, I and Kevin Hadley will be kind of co-presenting. I'll be conducting the majority of the presentation, but throughout our demo today and presenting this HH2 document flow product, we do welcome any questions or comments that might apply to your specific processes. To do so, there's a little questions panel, and Kevin's going to keep an eye on that throughout today's call so that we can make this as valuable as possible and getting into any questions that might be applicable as we walk through things. So just as a kind of a quick outline, I'm going to cover a little bit about HH2's platform and to try to build a good foundation about what we're going to cover today. After we cover a few of those items, we're actually going to spend the majority of our time today walking through the HH2 document flow product and highlighting some different ways that we can help streamline your processes in the AP department. So with that being said, I have my screen shared out here to just a couple quick slides we're going to take a peek at. Now, HH2 is a fully hosted cloud solution. We've been providing construction solutions for over 16 years and service a wide array of the construction industry. Now, being cloud-based, HH2 is available on a number of different devices. Many of those you already have for you and your employees with your companies, but you can use HH2 from a web browser, logging in from a desktop or laptop. We have native applications built for both iOS and Android phones and tablets. So you have a lot of different choices of how you're going to access our system based on what devices you already have available and what role you have within your company. So we'll talk about those as we look at the presentation. I just want to make you aware of some of the choices you have when using HH2. Now, in today's demo, we're going to cover a few of these items that I want to highlight. We're going to walk through from start to finish how the product works, and specifically how we solve some of the pain points that are typically found in the AP process using a manual or paper-driven process. We're going to begin by looking at how we acquire your vendor invoices into our system and some automation within that. Obviously, everything will be available electronically. We're then going to talk briefly about our approval workflow, how we can customize the routing and approval of your different AP documents. Now, in this product, we also support company credit cards and reimbursements and can create workflows for those specific types of AP items. Now, some companies might say, you know, as I look at this, I only have an issue or a need with the vendor invoices. I don't need credit cards or don't have to deal with expenses or reimbursements. Well, within HH2, you can use all of the items that this product supports, or just credit cards or invoices or whatever is going to help with your process. So we always like to stress that we're here to help solve the problems that you have. And this product, even though it handles a lot of different areas, you could use it for just one of those 3 AP documents that we support. Now, as we dive a little bit more specifically into the Sage 300 CRE accounting system, we want you to understand how HH2 seamlessly integrates with your accounting system. Now, HH2 has been integrating for many years, and the way that we do that with the Sage 300 CRE accounting system is we install a small program on your server where Sage is installed, whether it be in your office or maybe housed in the cloud somewhere. Either environment, HH2 simply installs a small program that allows us to pull the data we need from your environment up into the cloud with HH2. Now we're going to pull up your jobs, cost codes, employee information, information from AP, such as your distribution and header settings, what GL accounts and vendors you're using. That's all coming from the accounting system. And HH2, moving forward, will continually grab that information to ensure that our system has the latest and greatest information available up here in the cloud. So that's how we get your data. Once it's available in the HH2 cloud environment, you can use those web browser, phone, and tablet interfaces to use HH2 while you're on the job site, working in the office, traveling, or working at home. If there's anyone that's working remotely, HH2 gives you a lot of flexibility there. So with that being said here, just again, want to reiterate that HH2 will seamlessly pull the data up. And at the end of this process, we're going to seamlessly push the respective information back into the accounting system so that you can have all of your job costed invoice entered in without any manual entry. So we'll get to that point at the end, not to give too much away, but that is a little bit about that integration and how that works. Now, the final step we're going to take a peek at is we're going to take a peek at how we get invoices into HH2. And this is going to kind of lead us into looking at the product here, but we want you to understand how HH2 can make your invoice images automatically or uploaded into our system. So to do that, we're going to start on the left-hand side here. We have a little icon that says scan from email. And what that means is we're able to monitor your email inbox. So maybe you have an email, you have invoices at abcconcrete.com, and your invoices are sent to that email address. Well, HH2 will simply monitor that email for you, and any invoices that are sent in, we'll grab those images from the emails and we'll pull them into HH2. If you're scanning invoices in, maybe using a scanner because you get some invoices mailed in and you need to make those available electronically, you could scan them into a folder on your network or to your email. In either environment, again, HH2 will pull those invoices into our system. Now, we also have a mobile app that has some excellent technology to scan receipts and other items into the system. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then you can upload right from the web browser, which I will demonstrate for you today. So with that being said, these are some different methods of acquiring invoices into HH2. Now let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like and start walking through the process as we go through some things. Now, before I move away from here, just want to make sure that we didn't have any questions about what we've covered up to this point before we jump into the product.
I haven't seen anything in the chat panel, Britton, so I think we're good to go to jump into the demonstration of the product. And just as a reminder to everyone who's attending, if you do have questions, we are happy to answer those. That's kind of why we're here today. It's a lunch and learn where you can kind of not only learn about the product, but ask some of the questions you might like. So please feel free to use that chat panel and I'll monitor that while Britton's going through the presentation.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kevin. Appreciate you the help on that. So we're going to go ahead and bring over my web browser, and we're going to take a quick peek at the first step of this process. Now, when you log into HH2 from a web browser, you're going to have a unique website you're going to. And on the left-hand side here, once you're logged in, you're going to see some different icons that will be available based on the products that you're using. Now, even though we offer multiple products, today we're focusing on the AP product. And just to clarify, you'll only see the icons for the products that you purchase with HH2 to keep things concise. So let's go ahead and click on AP here, and we're going to pull up our main menu. Now in our main menu for document flow, I'm logged in right now as an admin, and I'm going to begin our journey today in that document acceptance queue. So I'm going to go ahead and click right there. And we're going to see a queue with all the different images that have been pulled in from those emails, scanned in from the folder, or uploaded manually right here. So you can see we have some assorted images as I scroll through here. Well, the whole design of this interface is to make it easy for you to organize the data that's been brought in and to make sure that all the relevant pages for your respective invoices are grouped together so that we can code them and route them for approval. So up here at the top right, I'm going to go ahead and actually upload an invoice here from my desktop. Again, as I mentioned, this is one of the different acquisition methods that we make available. So I'll quickly upload those. I'm going to scroll back down to the bottom because I have this screen being filtered from oldest at the top, and we're going to see those newest ones at the bottom. So here I uploaded these two just barely. And let's say that this is actually multiple invoices that need to be divided up, or maybe there's fraudulent or unneeded data. HH2 makes it easy by clicking on the pages. You can see a full image of it. Maybe if it's scanned upside down or backwards or sideways, I can go ahead and fix that. Go ahead and review each of the pages to make sure I know what belongs together. Once I'm happy with that, I can just simply select the appropriate pages. So in this one, rather than all 8, I selected pages 1 through 5, click the thumbs up approval, reorder the page if I need to, and then I simply accept that. It's that easy. So I just organized and said that's one invoice. From the remaining pages, I can select, maybe group these two together and say that's actually one invoice, even though it got scanned in separately. I'm going to accept that and move it to the next stage of the process. So very, very simple. Now, after we hit document acceptance here, we're going to get to the next stage where we'll be able to add some valuable information to these invoices. So let's go ahead and move over to that next interface called data entry. Now, I'm doing this from one user perspective, and oftentimes we'll have customers that say, you know, I have one AP person that does most of these roles, so I'm going to kind of follow that today. But if you have a larger company and multiple people do this, you can divide this up to multiple people if needed. Now, here in the data entry interface, we have multiple icons that represent invoices. Some of them could have 100 pages or 1 or 2 or 5, but they all represent just one invoice that we're going to route for approval. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down here at the bottom, and we're going to take a look at those invoices I accepted today, 27th January 2021. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that 5-page one I just accepted. And it's going to take me right into my data entry screen where I can start adding some of that valuable info. Now, to make this quick and easy, we have a few tools at your fingertips. We OCR your images to make the text readable by HH2. The header fields over here that we have are synchronized from Sage, so we know which header fields you use. And then HH2 will automatically attempt to grab the vendor by looking at the invoice and using that OCR technology. Once we have the vendor, we allow you to very quickly tell us where to find all this information using what we call a template. And this will actually begin to auto capture moving forward. So just to clarify, if I specify that the invoice number by clicking right here is found and drag over that area right here, HH2 will grab that information. Now this is a one-time setup. So once I tell the HH2 system where to find the information for vendor 602, I can auto capture, click right up here, and you'll see this information will autofill based on where the information is found. Now, if I haven't told it where to find certain data, I can go ahead and click here. Now, I just want to clarify this, this invoice is listed in a US date format, but my system is set up to handle format that's used in Australia. So just want to specify, it can't resolve that because it's looking for a different type of information, but that's all based on your particular setup. So I'm going to go ahead and just type some information in here. Well, we'll go back a couple days here. We're not quite to the 28th there. And you'll notice that the payment date and amount, accounting date, pre-fill for me right there. And that's coming directly from what's set up for that vendor. So we know that, you know, that's going to be 30 days after the invoice date is the payment date. HH2 pulls that information in as well. So very quickly, again, once you've created the information, auto capture is going to fill that in on the header. And then the final step in the data entry process is going to be to simply code to whatever distributions you use. Now, we see a lot of varying distribution configurations. These fields that we pull from are going to come from Sage as well, based on what you're using. So if you don't use purchase orders or commitments, they may not show here. If you're using jobs, cost codes, category, which is very, very common, obviously we're going to see those. If you code to an expense account, we're going to have those available as well. But at this point of the process, we simply begin coding to what information we know about this. So maybe on here is listed the job number, and I can simply start typing the job number in. HH2 has already synchronized all the jobs up in our system, and I can go ahead and just pick that after I've selected. Now, in this example today, I'm going to keep it fairly simple, and we're going to say that the data entry person just knows the job, and someone else in the company is going to complete the coding with the cost code category. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and minimize this distribution down, leaving it just coded to the job, and we're going to have someone else help us a little further in the process. But if you were a company that coded it completely at this stage of the process, we support that as well. And we also support coding to as many distributions as you need. So if this is coded to more than one job or cost code, HH2 can support that. I'm just keeping it very simple for today.
Hey, Britton, as you move on to the next, on the next phase and you start talking a little bit about the workflow, we did have a question come in from Pam. Pam simply asked the question, if you don't know the job number, can you just start typing in the job name as well?
Great question. Let's go back to that job field there, and I'll just start typing the word office. And you can see we have the Clackamas, Wayne, Beaverton office listed there. So absolutely, we actually search by the job number, the job name, and even the job address. So you have many different options. And Kevin,
great, thank you. Perfect.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate that. That's a phenomenal point to bring up there. Now, I will just mention in the other fields, if you didn't know the cost code number, you could type in the cost code name as well. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Now, once we're happy with the coding here, which is a very quick process, the final step is to begin routing this for approval. And in HH2, if I click this drop down here, we allow you to customize whatever approval process you need, and you can have multiple different workflows or approval options available. We help you in building these to make sure that the right people approve the right invoices. It's that simple. So for today, our system will automatically pick the workflow that I typically use and that's appropriate for this vendor because that's how I've set it up. And if I click next to that, I just want to give you a quick peek. In our system, we can set up multiple levels of approval. So if you're a company that has invoice being routed to someone because they're over a certain job or a certain overhead account, or maybe it's always routed to the same person in the workflow, we can help you build a particular workflow in the system. Now, I'm not going to go into that detail today, but just know that we can walk you through that. So if you have a certain workflow in a personal demo, we can outline exactly how HH2 can handle that. But for right now, let's go ahead and let's route this invoice out. And we're going to come to that invoice in just a minute and take a look at how easy it is for your users to review and approve invoices in the HH2 platform. And we're going to look for a couple different devices real quick here. All right, so with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to step away from the web browser for just a slight moment, and we're going to show you HH2 from a mobile phone. And I'm going to move to the phone to show you an approvers interface, but we're also going to quickly touch on HH2 support for capturing those credit card receipts that are so needed in your company. So bear with me just a moment here as I get that pulled up. And if there are any other questions while I'm transitioning here, feel free to enter those in, and we'll be more than happy to jump on those as well.
Yeah, no additional questions at this point.
All right.
Sure there we go. There we go.
I was gonna say the anticipation was killing me. Sometimes our phones just want to make sure that we know that they're actually the ones in charge. So this is a live stream from my iPhone. I have the HH2 document flow application downloaded, and we actually have a little badge icon indicating I have 16 invoices for my approval. We can enable push notifications if you want users to get alerted in that manner. It just depends on if that's helpful for your company. So that's what that is indicating. I'm going to simply just tap right on the app here, and it's going to pull up my invoice queue. And right from the palm of my hand, I can see all the invoices that are currently waiting for my approval. Now I'm down at the bottom here, so I can see my invoice from the Wheeler Machinery Co. 26 January 2021 was the date that I plugged in. I'm gonna go ahead and just tap right on that. And you'll see that that 5-page invoice is pulled up for me. I can simply zoom on in, easily see some detailed information on that particular invoice. Can zoom out as well. We have annotations available. If I needed to mark it up, there's a little annotations key here at the bottom. So maybe I want to go ahead and we'll go ahead and circle that right there. Okay. Up at the top here, if I need to review the header information or the coding distributions, I can just tap on those respective areas. There's my header fields that have been filled out by data entry. And there's my distributions. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I kept this pretty simple. I coded it to a job, and we're going to say that this user is a job manager, and we're going to have them list what cost code and category this invoice should be applied to. Pulling from the same data that we synchronize over on the job list, we're going to make available the cost codes that are set up on that job. Earlier, the question was, can we search by name and number? You bet. I knew that we're working on carpet or concrete, or I knew that it began with a 3-1. I can just begin typing, pick the appropriate cost code that's pulled from the accounting system, the category that's set up on that as well, and then I can go ahead and complete that. Now, again, this is one distribution. I could break this off and I could have 10 distributions if I needed to, depending on my cost code breakdown. But down at the bottom here, once I'm done, I can simply approve the invoice. It's that easy. I quickly want to mention that there are a few other items that are of note. We can, of course, save it if we're not ready to approve it quite yet. We can manually route it to other people in the company if that's something you want to enable. And then we have a little side menu allowing for other types of permissions depending on what you turn on for your users. So down here, probably the most common one we get asked about is adding notes or comments about this. I can go ahead, add a note here, and simply tell about why I'm approving this invoice. Okay, so from right there, we've gone ahead and we've added some good information here. I've added a note, and I can go ahead and approve this. All right, it'll approve that. It took me right to my next invoice. I can go ahead and start reviewing that particular invoice as well. Now, while we're here on the phone, I just want to quickly show you what it looks like to support capturing a receipt from a user out in the field. So the scenario here and the pain point we're trying to solve for is an employee has either a company credit card or they buy things that they need to be reimbursed for. And in either scenario, they want to be able to submit those receipts so that they can be documented and we can provide some job cost information for them. So to do that, we're going to click on the little 4 bars at the top left, and there's a little quick receipt button I'm going to utilize. Okay. What I'm doing here is tap on quick receipt. I have a receipt right in front of me. It's going to go ahead and try to find the edges, snaps a photo for me, did a pretty good job there. I'm going to go ahead and just save that. And you can see that we have a receipt here from a gas station that's listed in there. We have a little OCR button here that will help us grab some of the information from that. All right, did a really good job. Even got my date correct there, the amount and where I bought it at. And then I can simply tap the code to detail what this was for, and I can apply this to my job cost code category, or maybe for today, let's go ahead and apply this to an expense account or a GL. Now, I always like showing this because I think it's a great learning and example. Most companies don't want the employee to have to go through this many GL accounts or even have access to those, even if they could search and say, hey, I'm a salesperson, I'm going to go ahead and search on that. There might be too many options. So we can actually limit this down so that the employee only has a few options of what they actually need. Okay, so really, really simple. I'm going to apply this to a trip charge, and then we'll go ahead and go back. So in just a few clicks there, I've captured a receipt. I've provided some information about the purchase, including some job cost information. I can add a note here at the bottom. We'll go ahead and just say this is a note. Maybe. And then when I'm done with it, I can go ahead and just save and submit this. So it's that easy from the user perspective. Now in HH2, we have some excellent tools to route things for approval and to help with reconciling your credit cards from a company credit card statement. So those are some tools that we can definitely dig into, but for today's purpose, I wanted to simply show right from the phone how easy it is for your user to go in, submit it, and they can be done. Now, Kevin, is there anything you'd like to add on that? I know this tends to be kind of a great place just to make sure that I haven't missed anything, or there might be some other thoughts that that have come in as we've gone through this part of the demo.
No, I think you've done a great job there, Britton, with taking a look at the credit card capturing and how to deal with the receipt on a mobile device. Let's move along. We've got about another 10 plus minutes or so before we get into some additional questions.
Excellent. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to move back to the website. And we're going to focus in on an administrator perspective here. So from the admin perspective, or if I'm an approver, I could actually come into the web and I could go to an invoice queue here. I could come into an invoice. This is the one that I've been working on, so I thought it would be applicable. There's that little annotation and that note there. And this is what it looks like to review and actually update or approve an invoice from the web. Very simple and very similar to what we saw in data entry. We have all those same tools just right here from the web. So you can see what that looks like. And I can go ahead and just go ahead and approve this and then move on to the next items that I need to look at. But more specifically for an admin, we're going to come over to an interface called an invoice list. And even though there's a number of tools that the admin has access to, this invoice list is one of the most heavily utilized because it allows the admin to see everything in the system and where it's at in the approval process. And we can filter in on specific data that we need to see based on where we're at in the month and what I'm coming into the system to do. So there's a couple things we can do here. I could come in and I could use my job, vendor, or date filter to look at certain items. I can add specific filters here by going to my filter selection, and we have a ton of different fields that can be filtered or sorted on. I'm going to go past all of the job cost and the vendor fields and come down to a filter for what we call status. And this just lets us know where invoices are at in the approval process. So if we wanted to see things that were stuck in data entry, or waiting on approvals or in progress, we could do so. We can see anything that's in final review or waiting to be pushed into the accounting system. And then of course, anything that's been successfully exported. We have some additional filters to look at specific invoices. If we want to look at credit cards or reimbursements, there's some really nice focus tools to help us highlight those. But I'm just going to filter just on the final review because maybe I'm coming in here and I just want to see everything that's ready to go into the accounting system. And I don't really need to check and see where things are at or who's holding up the process. So in here, every invoice that's been approved and is at final review is now showing. I could add other filters as well, but again, we'll keep it pretty concise. And the final step of this process can be easier. I simply select all or specific invoices that I want to export. And then using this export button here, I can do a batch export to push all these invoices directly into the accounting system. Now, what we do with this is we push them in and it's going to take over that step of hand keying any information as we programmatically push all of the invoice information, the invoice number, the vendor, the distribution coding, all of that directly into the accounting system. At that point, it'll look as though you just hand keyed it and it will be ready to be selected for payment and to post a job cost, just like you do today. That step would not change. HH2 is taking away that tedious step of hand keying and configuring all the data. Obviously, having things have been reviewed and approved prior to that point, giving you a surety that we've gone through our due diligence and we've made sure that this information is good to go. Now, once we push the data in, HH2 is also going to have the image and information available in our system, and we even push that in the link via a little URL into Sage as well. So in the little attachments there, you could click on a URL link. It'll pull up a window so you can simply see the image, the audit trail, and any notes directly in the accounting system. A lot of companies also want to be able to consume that out of HH2, and we have some neat tools for that as well. So the final thing I wanted to share in regards to consuming some data after the fact is, let's say I wanted to come pull up all the invoices that applied to a certain job for a certain date range. I could add those filters, select the invoices, and I'm just going to keep the same one selected for right now. And I'm going to click on this little PDF button here at the top, and it's going to grab all the information. I can choose if I want to have annotations, the audit trail, and the coding details included. And out of HH2, we can have all that information readily available and dumped down into a PDF. Okay, this way you don't have to try to compile by clicking on one item at a time. That would be very tedious. So here you can see, as I scroll through, we have the invoice image, the header and distribution coding, the audit trail, and so forth. All right, so a really popular tool, and I always like showing that so you can get that backup information quickly and easily out of HH2. Now, that's the final step of the process that we wanted to cover here in regards to the flow of the data into the accounting system. And we hope that that helps give you a clear picture of the process from start to finish. With that being said, Kevin, is there anything that you would like to add to this step or the overall product that we've covered?
I don't think so to this step, Britton. If you would just go back to just kind of the menu, we'll just kind of talk to people a little bit about what is available. Again, we could go into even much more detail than we have. We hope that this has been beneficial. As Britton mentioned, we capture credit cards and reimbursements. We spent the vast majority of our time today within the invoice area. And you can use, again, whatever section or all of the features and functionality that you would like. Again, there's a host of other things that you can go into. We won't necessarily do it here, but there is a payment register where you can go see past payments of invoices and look up that information, and we can match the credit card. We did have a question come in from Pam, again, Britton, that says, does HH2 extract from the accounting system the payment information for an invoice? So that was great. So while I was explaining that, Pam was typing in that question. So it would be helpful, and if so, can you then extract a PDF of all invoices and payment batch? Let's do that real fast, just to show Pam how quickly you can do that.
Absolutely. So there's a few different ways of approaching it. The payment register is designed to help you say focusing in on a specific payment information and to be able to see that specific item that was paid. Or more applicably, when we're in that invoice list, there's a filter that we can actually add that's, has it been paid? So we can see anything that's been paid for a specific date range. So if I add that filter for anything that's been paid here, right now I don't have anything in the system to show on this particular database just because I haven't paid anything in my demo environment. Let me do this. I'm going to pull up a different demo site real quickly here.
And while you're doing, yeah, I was going to say, Britton, while you're doing that too, we can let Pam know as well that when we first do the install of the integration client or the sync client, we actually pull in all of your historical information, all of that information that you currently have in AP into HH2 to begin with. So we make sure when we get an invoice in the system that it's not a duplicate that you may have already had within your accounting system. So I wanted to make that distinction as well. Go ahead, Britton, with this piece.
No, that's great. Yeah, I think there's two different areas where seeing the payment information can be relevant. So let's say you've cut the check and you want to go through and review the invoice itself, the header distribution and payment information on that check that you're signing. This might be an applicable area where you go through and you scroll through each of these areas. There's that very long audit trail. Again, this is all some credit card receipts here, but you can see after the image of what is being coded to, we have the header, distribution, and that payment info. Now, as Kevin mentioned, if I wanted to come and see something that had already been paid in the system, we synchronize that up here. So this is a great place to see that. And when I click on those, if it's something that has been processed in Sage, but it never came into HH2, we wouldn't have an image, but we can synchronize all the header, distribution, and that payment information. So there's two different areas where that could be applicable. So hopefully that helps kind of fill that need a little bit from what Pam was asking. But if not, we know that we might need to cover some more detail, and that's something we'd be happy to do if you want to dig into that, possibly on a separate call.
Okay, and then one other thing Pam just mentioned, and you can extract the images into a PDF from the payment register screen.
We don't allow from the payment register screen, but we do allow from the invoice list. So it's the same type of information. This is designed to look for, like, maybe you get a call from a vendor and they give you a specific check number, and we go in and type in that check number in the system and then search for it. We'd be able to highlight exactly what they're looking for. It's kind of like a search area for specific items related to the payment. So in the invoice list where we're going to be able to focus in and see some of the specific images of the actual invoice and the coding and payment.
Okay.
So I hope that answered the question. I don't know if I'm hitting that answer pointedly, but I hope that helps to some degree.
No, I think okay. I think that's good. I was just answering Pam there in the chat as well. But I think that's great. Are there any other questions that? Okay. Okay, so Pam has mentioned, can you see that question there, Britton? I'm more interested in pulling out a batch of invoice images for an approver of a payment batch. So not sure if the invoice search is going to give enough search options. It's quite, yeah, go ahead, Britton.
I was going to mention, so typically when we get that type of request, if you're looking for something that was paid on a certain date, in our system, what we would recommend in that scenario is you would just select the date range, and you would actually select when it was exported, because that's going to give us that date range, and then when it was paid. We might need a little bit more information about exactly the problem we're trying to solve with that, and there might be a different way we can approach it, but there are a few different ways of using this filter sort option within the invoice list.
Okay. All right, Pam. Hopefully that was good. And again, we'll pull up some of our information, Pam, at the end. And we may want to, or if you're willing to, we'd love to schedule a one-on-one with you. And you can contact Britton or I, and we can kind of dive into that a little bit more in detail. So thank you, though, for those questions. It's great. At this point, let's do this, Britton. Will you pull up the Australia pricing page for HH2, and we'll talk to these good folks about how our product is priced, then continue to ask if there are any other questions. So within HH2, you just get there, hh2.com/products-aus. And then we do have two different products that we offer the Australian community, and that is the document flow routing, AP routing and approval that we talked about today in our Lunch and Learn. And then we also have a time entry and reporting module as well. So you're welcome to learn more about those, but let's take a look at the document flow pricing. So he's just going to click on Learn More, and then up in the upper right hand corner, you'll notice that there he can just click on pricing there. And as Britton mentioned, we have our product is a fully hosted cloud solution, and our pricing model is a subscription model. And it's based on usage, not users, which is a little bit unique in the software industry. A lot of times you'll buy software and you'll have to buy certain licenses or seats. There's no concept of that within the HH2 product lineup. Once you subscribe to a product, anyone in your company can be a user within HH2 and be given different rights, permissions, etc. But you have unlimited users. So where HH2 starts the pricing is right up there at the top of 0 to 100 documents. Now a document is not the number of pages, okay? So Britton had a document that was about 8 pages long today, but it was just one invoice. That would count as just one document within HH2 system. Okay, so it's not really based upon the pages, just the invoice, whether that be a credit card transaction or an invoice that was brought in through the system. Now, we start at $239. It is priced in Australia dollars there, Australian. And from there, you get 8 hours of implementation and training time for free with a consultant here at HH2, where we will walk through the product hand in hand with you, developing the workflows, discussing what items you want to set up, looking at your system, setting up this integration client. So the integration with Sage is included. The OCR that Britton spoke of earlier is included. The mobile apps, again, unlimited users. Now, after the first month, the first month that you'll subscribe, again, you would pay $239. After the first month, we run a query on your database at the end of each month, and then we just invoice you based upon the total number of documents that are routed through HH2 during that month. So Britton's almost ready to highlight the 251. So let's say that one month you had 300 documents. that were routed through HH2 and imported into Sage, we would invoice your company at the end of that month, $419. Okay. And then the next month, if you happen to go back lower and you had only 200 invoices, then you would have 300, you would be invoiced $239. So the pricing each month for this product will scale up and scale down based upon your actual usage. There are also no long-term contracts to sign with HH2. We don't have you sign up for an entire year. It's just month to month. So we feel like we've got to earn your business each and every month by providing a great product, great service, and great support. Britton, anything else that I've missed on the pricing?
No, I think that's great. I think that's covered everything that I would cover as well. I just want to thank everyone for their time and questions. I think it's been great so far.
Let's do this. One last thing, Britton, why don't you pull up our information? If there is any additional questions about pricing or anything else in the product, again, we are happy to stay on for the next few minutes if anybody else on board has any other questions. But here is Britton's information and my information. I'm the Vice President of Sales. Britton is our Director of Sales here at HH2. You can see our email addresses, either khadley@hh2.com or bbauer@hh2.com. And we would love to, again, hear from you, schedule a one-on-one if needed. But I believe that's everything we need. And I will just echo Britton's sentiments of we appreciate everybody's time today. And we especially appreciate everyone at Thrive for their support of HH2 Cloud Services. I know we're new into the Australia marketplace, so we appreciate their support, Sage's support, who has fully endorsed our products and services for that market. Because of our success here in the States, we look forward to getting this product in the hands of many more companies there in Australia. So Chris, thank you again very much for your time and for this platform.
Thanks a lot, Kevin and Britton. That was a great presentation. We have a fairly short relationship with HH2 personally, but they are a company that comes with a very, very strong reputation. We have a lot of CRE partners over in the US who speak very highly of them, so a strong endorsement there. Now, for anyone in the Australian market, if you need any more information, the email you received notification on this webinar from is the best way. So that's info@thrivetech.com.au, and we'll be able to handle any queries and be able to dig deeper if you need to. So thanks a lot for everyone, and we will wrap it up there.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks,
Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.